I never believed a single sentence could rip apart a life built over more than a decade. But that's exactly what happened on an ordinary Tuesday evening while I stood over a sizzling pan of onions and garlic, thinking about lesson plans and unfinished grading. Ethan walked in without his usual smile. No kiss on my cheek. No casual joke about my cooking. He stood in the doorway like a man delivering a work order. "Sarah, make sure the house is spotless," he said flatly. "My sister just had her baby. She's moving in for 6 months so you can help take care of him." My hand froze mid-stir. For a moment, I thought I had misheard him. 6 months? Move in? Take care of the baby? I turned slowly, searching his face for any hint that this was a discussion, a suggestion, anything other than a command. But his expression told me everything. The decision had already been made. "Ethan, we need to talk about this," I said carefully. "I work full-time. Our house is small. A newborn is a huge responsibility. There's nothing to talk about," he cut in. "Jess needs help. Your family. She'll be here Sunday." It was Thursday. 3 days. 3 days to prepare for a woman I barely knew and a baby who would turn my already exhausting life upside down. I'm a 4th-grade teacher. My days start before sunrise. I manage classrooms, meetings, parents, grading, lesson planning, then I come home and manage the house. Cooking. Cleaning. Laundry. Bills. Weekends aren't rest days, they're for catching up on everything I couldn't finish during the week. And now, without asking me, my husband had assigned me the role of full-time nanny. What stung most wasn't just the work. It was the way he said it. Like I was staff. Like my time, my body, my limits didn't matter. At dinner, I tried again. 6 months is a long time, I said gently. And where is Mark in all this? Why isn't Jess staying with her husband? Ethan avoided my eyes. He's overwhelmed. Jess thought it would be better to get space. The explanation didn't sit right. Mark had always seemed kind. Responsible. The kind of man excited to be a father. Why would a new mom flee her home unless something was seriously wrong? That night, I lay awake beside Ethan, staring at the ceiling. He fell asleep easily, like a man with no doubts and no guilt. I, on the other hand, felt something gnawing at my chest. It wasn't just inconvenience. It was intuition. Over the years, I'd noticed small things. Ethan's sudden errands for Jess. The long phone calls he took outside. The way plans changed whenever she needed something. I used to think it was sweet, brotherly devotion. Now, lying in the dark, those memories felt different. Heavier. Wrong. On Friday, I confided in my best friend Emily during lunch. "This sounds off, Sarah," she said. "Your husband doesn't get to make decisions like that without you. And that story about Jess and Mark? It doesn't add up." Her words followed me all day. Saturday, Ethan came home with suitcases and a portable crib. Seeing that crib in my living room made everything real. Where would they even sleep? The guest room was a glorified storage corner. We spent hours clearing junk, assembling furniture, and setting up baby supplies. I watched Ethan fold tiny clothes with strange precision, like someone who'd done this before. "Have you seen the baby yet?" I asked. "Yes. I visited at the hospital." Another detail he hadn't mentioned. That night, he tossed and turned. He checked his phone repeatedly. He even talked in his sleep, anxious, strained whispers I couldn't understand. By Sunday morning, my stomach was in knots. As Ethan sprayed his special cologne, the one he only wore for important events, I realized this wasn't just about helping family. Something else was going on. Something big. Something I wasn't being told. And I had no idea that within hours, a single message would expose a truth so dark, it would destroy everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Ethan left in a hurry that morning, taking the car and promising he'd be back in a couple of hours with Jess and the baby. He forgot his phone on the kitchen counter. That never happened. Ethan treated his phone like an extension of his body. He checked it constantly. Took it into the bathroom. Slept with it on his nightstand. So when it started vibrating next to my coffee cup, my heart skipped. I had no intention of snooping. Not at first. But the screen lit up with a notification. Jess. That alone made my stomach tighten. I told myself to ignore it. To respect privacy. To be the trusting wife I'd always been. Then I saw the preview. Love, I'm almost packed. I can't wait to be close to you again. Being apart has been torture. My hands went cold. Love? Why would my sister-in-law call my husband love? My pulse thundered in my ears as I picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over the screen, my conscience screaming at me to stop. But instinct was louder. I unlocked it. The message thread opened, and my world tilted. Thanks for convincing Sarah. You really played it perfectly. 6 months together every day, finally. My knees weakened. Every word felt like a slap. 6 months together. Not as siblings. As something else. I scrolled. I can't wait for you to hold Leo again. He needs to bond with his real father. The room spun. Real father. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a hollow sound that seemed to echo through the entire house. Real father. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. My brain refused to accept it. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might faint. Slowly, trembling, I picked the phone back up. I needed proof. I needed context. I needed to understand how deep this went. I scrolled up. Month after month of messages. Flirting. Secret meetups. Late night calls. Photos. Then I found the message that made my stomach turn. The test is positive. I'm pregnant. Ethan's reply. Our baby. I'll take care of you. Both of you. Tears blurred my vision. Not a mistake. Not a one-time thing. This was a relationship. A hidden life. Then came messages about Mark. He's starting to question the dates. Don't worry. We'll make him believe it's his. I pressed a hand over my mouth to stop myself from screaming. They had planned it. They had planned to trap Mark into raising a child that wasn't his. They had planned to use me as cover. To turn me into a live-in babysitter for my husband's secret child. And then I saw the worst message of all. I can't wait until we're all under one roof. It will finally feel like a real family. Real family. So what was I? A maid? A shield? A fool? My legs gave out and I sank onto the edge of the bed. 12 years. 12 years of loyalty. Of trust. Of defending him to friends who said he was controlling. Of believing every excuse. Every late night. Every, I'm just helping Jess. I kept scrolling. There were pictures. Hospital photos. Jess in a gown, holding the baby. Ethan beside her. His hand on her shoulder. His face soft. Proud. A father's face. The resemblance was undeniable. Same eyes. Same chin. Same dimple. It was like staring at a genetic mirror. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Pale. Shaking. Eyes hollow. I had just discovered that my husband wasn't just cheating. He was living a double life. With his own sister. And he was bringing the proof of it into my home. To live with me. To be cared for by me. I wiped my mouth, staring at my reflection. My marriage wasn't just broken. It was rotten. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. The shock was still there. The pain was unbearable. But beneath it, something colder was forming. A quiet, dangerous resolve. Because now that I knew the truth, I had power. And they had no idea what was coming. I didn't confront Ethan right away. Not because I was afraid. But because I needed time to think. Time to breathe. Time to decide what kind of woman I was going to be after this. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at the wall, replaying every memory from the past year. Every emergency with Jess. Every last-minute trip. Every time he insisted we needed to help her because family comes first. Family. The word made my jaw tighten. I thought about all the dinners I cooked for her. The times I watched Leo so she could rest. The way I defended Ethan when people whispered that his relationship with his sister seemed too close. I had been their perfect cover. The obedient wife. The useful fool. My phone buzzed in my hand. Ethan. I stared at his name on the screen like it belonged to a stranger. I let it ring. Then I let it ring again. On the third call, I answered, forcing my voice to sound normal. Hey, I said. Where are you? He asked. I told you I'd be back soon. Jess just needs a little more time. A little more time. I almost laughed. Take your time, I said softly. I'm not going anywhere. The lie tasted bitter. But I needed him to believe me. I needed him relaxed. Comfortable. Careless. After we hung up, I opened a notebook. Not to write a dramatic letter. Not to cry. But to make a list. Dates. Times. Places. Anything from the messages that could be useful. Because if I'd learned anything in 12 years of marriage, it was this. Ethan only respected two things. Control. And evidence. I took screenshots of everything. Saved them to my cloud. Emailed them to a secret account I created on the spot. If he tried to delete them later, it wouldn't matter. The truth was no longer just in his phone. It was in my hands. I walked through the house differently after that. Like I was already living a new life. The walls felt thinner. The air heavier. Every photo of Ethan and me on the wall felt like a lie frozen in time. I stopped in front of our wedding picture. We looked so young. So hopeful. I searched his face for signs. Had he always been this man? Or had I simply refused to see him? The front door opened. My heart slammed against my ribs. I wasn't ready yet. But it was just the wind, a neighbor's door, not ours. Still, the reminder was enough. They were coming. Jess. The baby. The living proof. They were about to move their secret into my daily life. Into my kitchen. My guest room. My routine. They expected me to smile. To help. To play the supportive sister-in-law. To be the silent accomplice in my own betrayal. I sat down at the kitchen table and folded my hands. I practiced my face in my mind. Neutral. Kind. Oblivious. Because rage makes people sloppy. And I couldn't afford to be sloppy. Not when the truth was this big. Not when the betrayal cut this deep. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was strategic. I was awake. And I was done being the woman they used. Because when Ethan and Jess walked back into this house, they thought they were bringing their secret with them. What they didn't know was that I had already turned their secret into a weapon. And I was just waiting for the right moment to use it. That night, I didn't sleep. Not really. I lay beside Ethan, staring at the ceiling while he breathed evenly next to me, like a man with a clear conscience. His arm rested over my waist. The same arm that had held his sister. The same hand that had cradled a child that wasn't mine, a child he helped create in secret. I stayed still. Not because I wanted his touch. but because I wanted information. In the middle of the night, his phone buzzed. Once. Twice. He shifted, half asleep, and silenced it without looking. I memorized the movement. The instinct. The habit of hiding. Morning came with a fake normalcy that made my skin crawl. Coffee brewed. Toast popped. Ethan kissed my cheek and asked if I'd be okay with Jess staying, just a few weeks. A few weeks, I repeated calmly. She needs support, he said. Mark's been difficult. Mark. The man they were lying to. The man raising a child that wasn't his. I nodded. Of course, I said. Family helps family. The words burned. Later, when Ethan left for work, I went into the guest room. The room Jess would be staying in. I stood in the doorway, imagining her suitcase on the floor. The baby's crib against the wall. Ethan standing too close to her. Their whispered conversations behind closed doors. My house turning into their safe haven. I started opening drawers. Not to snoop randomly. But because instinct told me something else was hidden. Something bigger. In the back of the closet, behind old blankets, I found a small locked box. It wasn't mine. I knew that instantly. My hands shook as I carried it to the bed. The lock was cheap. It took less than a minute to force it open with a hairpin. Inside were old envelopes. Printed photos. And one folded piece of paper that made my breath catch. A paternity test. Not the recent one. An old one. Dated years ago. My fingers went numb as I read the results. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. The father, Ethan. The child, not Leo. A different name. A different date. My head spun. There was another child. Before this one. Before Leo. Before this whole situation I thought I had uncovered. I sank onto the bed. This wasn't a mistake that grew into something. This was a pattern. A system. A secret life that had been running parallel to my marriage. For how long? I flipped through the photos. Jess, younger. Pregnant. Ethan beside her. Not as a brother. As a partner. The way he stood. The way his hand rested on her lower back. The way he looked at her. It was intimate. Familiar. Practiced. This hadn't started recently. It had started years ago. Maybe even before I married him. My stomach twisted as a new realization formed. What if my entire marriage was built on a lie? What if I was never meant to be the real wife? Just the public one? The respectable one? The cover? The woman who made their lives look normal? I folded the paper carefully and put everything back exactly how I found it. Then I took photos of every single page. Every result. Every envelope. Every date. I wasn't just collecting proof anymore. I was uncovering a timeline. A history. A betrayal that ran deeper than I had ever imagined. When Ethan came home that evening, he smiled at me. Jess will be here tomorrow, he said. I hope that's okay. I smiled back. Of course, I said. Inside, my heart was steady. Not broken. Steady. Because now I knew something they didn't. This wasn't just about one baby. Or one affair. This was a long-running deception. And tomorrow, when Jess walked into my house with that child, she had no idea that I already knew about the first one. The next morning, after Ethan left for work, I didn't hesitate. I went straight to his laptop. He was careless with it. Always had been. A password he thought I'd never guess. Our anniversary. The irony almost made me laugh. The screen unlocked. My hands were steady. My mind was sharper than it had been in months. I searched his email. At first, it was nothing. Work threads. Invoices. Meeting invites. Then I typed Jess's name. Hundreds of emails appeared. Not romantic. Not obvious. Careful. Too careful. Messages written like business communication. But the subtext was clear. I opened one. We need to finalize the living arrangement before the end of the month. The timing has to line up. Another. Mark is getting suspicious. If he finds out now, everything falls apart. Everything. Not just a relationship. A plan. I scrolled deeper. Then I found the email that made my blood run cold. If Sarah refuses to sign, we delay phase 2. Sign. Phase 2. Those weren't words used in secret affairs. Those were words used in schemes. I dug through the attachments. Legal-looking documents. Scanned letters. Draft agreements. My chest tightened as I opened one. It was a property document. My name was on it. So was Ethan's. And so was a third party. A trust. Connected to Jess. They weren't just moving in. They were trying to transfer assets. My assets. Our house. Our savings. They were positioning themselves. Setting up something permanent. Something that would make it harder for me to walk away. Harder for me to fight back. The room felt smaller. Like the walls were closing in. This wasn't just emotional betrayal. This was financial. Strategic. Calculated. They weren't just destroying my marriage. They were trying to secure their future. Using my life as collateral. I took photos. Downloaded files. Forwarded emails. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I documented everything. Every line. Every name. Every date. Then I closed the laptop exactly how I found it. By the time Ethan got home, Jess was already there. She stood in my doorway with the baby in her arms. Smiling. Soft. Innocent. If I didn't know better, I might have believed her. "Sarah," she said. "Thank you for letting us stay." Her voice was warm. Her eyes were careful. Leo stirred in her arms. I looked at him. Not with anger. With sadness. He didn't choose this. He didn't choose to be born into lies. "You're welcome," I said. "Your family." Ethan watched me closely. Like he was searching for cracks. For signs. I gave him none. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again. Only this time, I wasn't confused. I was focused. They thought moving in would give them control. They thought proximity would protect them. What they didn't realize was that by bringing their entire operation into my house, they had just handed me front row access to everything. Every conversation. Every mistake. Every slip. They had moved their chessboard into my living room. And I was done playing defense. It happened 3 nights after Jess moved in. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan thought I was asleep. Jess thought I was exhausted. They were wrong. I lay in bed, staring at the dark, listening to every sound. A floorboard creaked. Soft footsteps. Whispered voices. I waited. Then I heard the guest room door close. Slowly, silently, I slipped out of bed. My heart pounded, but my steps were careful. The hallway light was off. Their voices were low, but the walls in this house were thin. I stood near the door. Not close enough to be obvious. Just close enough to hear. "We can't wait much longer," Jess whispered. "She's starting to notice things." "She hasn't said anything," Ethan replied. "She still trusts me." The word trust made my stomach turn. Trust isn't enough, Jess said. Once the paperwork is done, we need to push her out. Clean. Push her out. Clean. Not separation. Not divorce. Removal. My fingers curled into fists. How? Ethan asked. We make it look like it's her idea, Jess said. Emotional breakdown. Unstable. You keep Leo and me safe. You're the responsible one. My vision blurred with rage. They weren't just betraying me. They were planning to erase me. To rewrite the story. To make me the problem. She doesn't have family nearby, Jess continued. No strong support. If we play it right, she won't have the energy to fight. Silence. Then Ethan spoke. Once the trust is finalized, it won't matter. The house is secured. The accounts are protected. Protected. From me. From the woman who helped build them. From the wife who believed in him. Jess exhaled softly. Then we'll finally be a real family. Real family. Again. Like a knife. I stepped back before my breath gave me away. I returned to bed and stared at the ceiling, my body shaking. They weren't just planning my emotional destruction. They were planning my displacement. My isolation. My financial weakening. They were setting the stage to make me disappear from my own life. I didn't cry. Not that night. I felt something colder. Clearer. If they wanted a quiet exit for me, they weren't going to get it. The next day, I acted normal. I made breakfast. Held the baby. Smiled at Jess. Kissed Ethan goodbye. Inside, I was building something else. A counterplan. I started making calls. Quiet ones. To a lawyer. To a financial advisor. To a friend I hadn't spoken to in years, someone who owed me a favor. I didn't explain everything. Not yet. But I started laying groundwork. Because if they wanted to paint me as unstable, I needed to be 5 steps ahead. If they wanted to take control, I needed to document everything before they could touch it. They thought they were predators. They thought I was prey. They had no idea that I had just heard their entire strategy. And now, I knew exactly what they were planning. It came while I was folding laundry. A notification on my phone. Unknown number. For a second, I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. Something in my gut told me to look. The message was short. But it hit like a bomb. You don't know me, but you need to know the truth about Ethan and Jess. They've done this before. My hands went numb. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering. I typed back slowly. Who is this? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then a longer message came through. My name is Rachel. I was married to Ethan's cousin. Jess and Ethan destroyed my marriage. There's a child. And I wasn't the first wife they lied to. The room tilted. Not the first. Not just me. Not just Mark. This was bigger. I moved to the bedroom and locked the door. My fingers shook as I typed. How? The reply came quickly. They use family as cover. They isolate. They make you feel crazy. They plan financially before they leave you emotionally. By the time you realize what's happening, they've already taken control. Every word felt too familiar. Like she had been standing in my house. Listening through my walls. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. There was a pause. Longer this time. Then. Because I saw Jess post a picture from your house. Same guest room. Same curtains. I recognized it instantly. That's when I knew they'd started again. Started again. Like a cycle. A system. A method. Do you have proof? I typed. Her response included photos, screenshots, old emails, messages between Ethan and Jess that looked disturbingly similar to the ones I had found. Same tone. Same strategy. Different victim. Different house. Different wife. My stomach turned. They hadn't just betrayed me. They had perfected this. I wasn't unique. I was next in line. Rachel sent one final message. They will try to make you look unstable. They will move money quietly. They will tell everyone you changed. Don't let them control the narrative. I sat on the bed, staring at the wall. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It was part of a pattern. A chain of women. A trail of damage. They had been practicing on others before they ever met me. That realization did something to me. It took away the last piece of self-blame. This wasn't because I wasn't enough. This wasn't because I missed something. This was because they were predators hiding behind family. That night, I looked at Ethan differently. Not as my husband. But as a man with a history. A script. A playbook. Jess wasn't just his accomplice. She was his partner in crime. And now I had something powerful. A witness. Someone who had survived them. Someone who could confirm I wasn't imagining things. They didn't know it yet. But their biggest mistake was repeating the same scheme. Because patterns are easy to expose. And now, I had someone who knew exactly how this story ended. Rachel didn't text this time. She sent a voice message. Her voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that only comes after something has already broken you. Sarah, she said softly, I need you to listen to me. When they realize you're onto them, they won't panic. They'll speed up. That's what they did to me. Papers moved faster. Stories changed. People turned cold overnight. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping my phone. They'll try to rush you into signing something, she continued. Or make you think it's no big deal. Temporary. For your own good. Don't sign anything. Not even something that looks harmless. My throat tightened. They'll also start planting stories, she said. To friends. Family. About how you're stressed. Emotional. Hard to deal with. That way, when you finally speak up, people already doubt you. I closed my eyes. Because it was already happening. Ethan had told his mother I was overwhelmed. Jess had mentioned to a neighbor that I hadn't been myself lately. Tiny seeds. Quiet lies. I didn't listen fast enough, Rachel finished. I thought I had more time. I didn't. Please don't make the same mistake. The message ended. The room felt heavier. Time. That was the real enemy now. Not just betrayal. Not just lies. But the clock. That night at dinner, Ethan was unusually attentive. Too attentive. He poured my wine. Asked about my day. Touched my hand longer than usual. It felt rehearsed. Jess watched from across the table. Silent. Observing. Like she was waiting for a cue. After dinner, Ethan cleared his throat. I spoke to a friend today, he said casually. He knows someone who helps couples organize finances. Just to make things easier while Jess is here. Organize. Another word for move. Protect. Hide. I thought it might take some pressure off you, he added. Pressure off me. I smiled. That's thoughtful, I said. We can talk about it later. Later. Always later. That was how they kept control. I went to bed early. Not to sleep. But to think. To plan. I messaged my lawyer again. Updated her. Forwarded Rachel's evidence. asked one simple question. How fast can we lock down my personal accounts? The reply came back quicker than I expected. First thing tomorrow. Don't tell him. My heart raced. For the first time, I felt something close to hope. Not the kind that makes you soft. The kind that makes you dangerous. Because now I wasn't just reacting. I was moving. Quietly. Strategically. Just like they were. They thought they were rushing me. They had no idea that I was about to freeze them out of the one thing they thought they controlled. My financial independence. I logged into my bank account before I even brushed my teeth. Still half asleep. Still hoping Rachel was wrong. She wasn't. There it was. A large transfer pending. Not from Ethan's account. From our joint savings. An account we had agreed never to touch without talking first. My hands went cold. The description was vague. Internal reallocation. A polite phrase for something ugly. I refreshed the page. It was still there. Pending. Not completed. Yet. I called my lawyer immediately. She answered on the second ring. That's them, she said after I explained. We need to act now. What do I do? I whispered. You separate your portion immediately, she said. Today. Before that transfer clears. My heart pounded. I dressed quickly. Did my makeup like everything was normal. Smiled at Ethan. Kissed him goodbye. Told him I had errands. He didn't question it. He never thought he needed to. At the bank, my hands shook as I signed forms. Separated accounts. New passwords. New security questions. A quiet firewall. The teller smiled politely. She had no idea she was watching a woman take back control of her life. By the time I got back to my car, I checked my phone. The pending transfer was gone. Cancelled. I exhaled for the first time all day. But the relief didn't last. Because my phone rang. Ethan. I stared at it. Let it ring. Then I answered. Why is the transfer cancelled? He asked, not bothering to hide the edge in his voice. I forced a laugh. Oh, that? The bank flagged it for review. I guess because it was a big amount. Silence. Then, I'll handle it later. Handle it. Like it was his right. Like it was his money. Okay, I said softly. Whatever you think is best. The lie felt heavy. But necessary. That night, the house felt different. Sharper. Jess barely spoke to me. Ethan watched me more closely. Like he was recalculating. Like a chess player who just realized his opponent had moved a piece he didn't see. I knew then. They felt it. They didn't know exactly what I had done. But they knew something had shifted. Later, I got a message from Rachel. Good. That's exactly what they did to me. Once the money stopped moving their way, everything got ugly fast. Be ready. Ugly. That word stayed with me. Because I could already feel it coming. The tension. The coldness. The change in tone. They had lost their quiet advantage. And people like Ethan and Jess didn't respond well to losing control. They didn't retreat. They escalated. I went to bed that night with my phone under my pillow. Not for comfort. For evidence. For safety. For whatever came next. Because now I wasn't just protecting my heart. I was protecting my future. And I knew one thing for sure. They weren't going to let this go quietly. It started with a phone call. From Ethan's mother. She had never called me this early before. Sarah, she said gently, Ethan mentioned you've been under a lot of stress lately. Stress. The word hit harder than it should have. I'm okay, I said carefully. She hesitated. He's worried about you, she continued. He says you've been forgetting things. Getting emotional. That maybe everything with the baby has been too much for you. My stomach dropped. They were doing it. Exactly like Rachel said. Planting the story. Soft. Concerned. Convincing. I appreciate the concern, I said. But I'm fine. After we hung up, my phone kept buzzing. A friend checking in. A cousin asking if I was all right. Concern spreading. Quietly. Strategically. By lunchtime, I understood. Ethan wasn't just reacting. He was reframing me. Turning me into the problem. The unstable wife. The overwhelmed woman. The unreliable narrator. So when I finally confronted him that evening, I chose my words carefully. Why are you telling people I'm not okay? I asked. He looked genuinely surprised. At least, he pretended to. I'm just worried about you, he said. Anyone would be under pressure with everything going on. Everything going on. Their mess. Their lies. Their child. I don't need you to manage my reputation, I said. He stepped closer. Lowered his voice. I'm trying to protect you, he said. You've been acting different. Distant. Distracted. Gaslighting. Clean. Professional. Jess appeared in the doorway. Silent. Watching. Maybe you should talk to someone, she added softly. Just to have support. Support. Another word for control. I nodded. Maybe I will, I said. And I meant it. Just not in the way they thought. That night, I wrote an email. Not to family. Not to friends. To myself. A timeline. Every incident. Every lie. Every financial move. Every overheard conversation. If they tried to paint me as unreliable, I would have documentation that proved I was the most consistent person in this story. I also recorded a short voice memo. My voice. Calm. Clear. Stating facts. Dates. Events. Names. Because memories can be questioned. Recordings are harder to erase. They thought they were slowly isolating me. What they didn't know was that every lie they told about me was another piece of evidence in my favor. Another pattern. Another confirmation. They were building my case for me. Without realizing it. I found out at lunch. Not from Ethan. Not from Jess. From my manager. She called me into her office with that careful, polite tone that makes your stomach tighten before you even sit down. Sarah, she said, folding her hands, I just wanted to check in. Ethan reached out. My heart dropped. He did? I asked. She nodded slowly. He said you've been under a lot of personal stress. That you might need some flexibility. Possibly some time off. Time off. Another soft way of saying unstable. Another attempt to weaken me. I didn't ask him to do that, I said firmly. I know, she replied. That's why I wanted to hear it from you. Relief washed through me, but only a little. Because I saw what he was trying to do. If he could make me look unreliable at work. If he could plant doubt in my professional life. He could shrink my independence even further. I thanked my manager and walked back to my desk, hands shaking. This wasn't just personal anymore. This was my livelihood. My safety net. My escape route. That night, I confronted him. Why did you call my workplace? I asked. He didn't even deny it. I was worried, he said calmly. You've been distracted. I thought they should know. You had no right, I said, my voice tight. He sighed like I was being unreasonable. I'm trying to help you, he said. If you burn out, it affects everyone. Everyone. Always everyone. Never me. Jess stood behind him in the hallway. Listening. Learning. I realized then. They weren't just trying to push me out emotionally. They were trying to weaken every part of my independence. Money. Reputation. Work. Support. Piece by piece. That night, I made a decision. I told my lawyer everything. The work call. The planted concerns. The financial attempts. The overheard plan. She didn't hesitate. This is no longer just a marital issue, she said. This is coercive and manipulative behavior. You need to protect yourself. Protect yourself. Not your marriage. Yourself. For the first time, someone said it out loud. I started packing a small bag. Not to leave. Not yet. But to be ready. Documents. USB drive with evidence. Cash. Medications. Things you don't think about until you realize. You might need to move fast. Ethan watched me from the doorway. You going somewhere? He asked lightly. Just organizing, I said. He nodded. But his eyes were sharper now. Suspicious. Calculating. They could feel control slipping. And people like them never lose control quietly. They strike back. Harder. Louder. More desperate. I lay in bed that night fully dressed. Bag hidden. Phone charged. Keys close. Not because I was afraid to leave. But because I was afraid of what they might try next. The message came at 12:47 a.m. From Ethan's aunt. A woman who had always been polite. Distant. Neutral. Until now. Sarah, I don't know how to say this, but I think you need to be careful. Things are being said about you. Serious things. My chest tightened. What kind of things? I typed back. The reply took a minute. Then. They're saying you're unstable. That you might do something unpredictable. That Ethan is worried about safety. Safety. That word froze my blood. That wasn't just gossip. That was groundwork. That was the kind of story people tell when they want to justify drastic action. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Her answer came slower. Because I've seen this before in this family. And it never ends well for the woman who stays quiet. My hands shook. She sent another message. I overheard Jess saying you can't be trusted around the baby. That you might hurt yourself or someone else. I felt sick. That wasn't just character assassination. That was dangerous. They weren't just trying to push me out. They were trying to make me look like a threat. That kind of narrative could cost me everything. My job. My reputation. My freedom. My ability to fight back. I called my lawyer immediately. She didn't even sound surprised. They're escalating, she said. This is how people justify removing someone from the picture. What do I do? I whispered. You document. You stay visible. You tell at least one trusted person exactly what's happening. And you don't stay isolated. Visible. That word mattered. If they wanted to paint me as unstable, I needed witnesses. I texted my closest friend. Sent her everything. Screenshots. Timelines. Voice notes. I told her plainly. If anything strange happens, this is why. For the first time, I felt truly scared. Not of being alone. But of being rewritten. Of being erased by a story I didn't tell. The next morning, Jess avoided me. Ethan was overly polite. Too polite. Like people who had already decided something. I packed my bag more carefully. Not in panic. In preparation. Because now I understood. They weren't just planning a divorce. They were building a case. A story. A version of me that justified removing me from their way. I looked at myself in the mirror. Tired. But clear-eyed. They could try to take my voice. They could try to take my money. They could try to take my reputation. But they wouldn't take my truth. Not quietly. Not anymore. It happened at a family gathering. Ethan's idea. A small dinner. Nothing formal. Just close relatives. The kind of setting where people lower their guard. I knew something was off the moment we arrived. Jess stayed close to Ethan. Too close. Whispering. Watching me like she was waiting for me to mess up. I stayed calm. Smiled. Helped in the kitchen. Played my role. Then, in the middle of dinner, Ethan raised his glass. I just want to say how proud I am of Jess, he said. She's been so strong through everything. Everyone nodded. Sympathetic. He continued. And I also want to thank Sarah, he added, turning to me, for being so patient while we deal with everything she's been going through. There it was. Public. Subtle. Framed as concern. But the message was clear. I was the problem. The table went quiet for a second. Then someone said, "You've had a lot on your plate, haven't you, Sarah?" I felt the room tilt. This was what they wanted. Witnesses. A narrative. I smiled. But inside, something snapped into place. Not rage. Clarity. Actually, I said calmly, I've been handling things pretty well. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Jess's eyes flickered. I continued. I've been organizing finances, keeping records, and making sure everything is documented properly. Documented. The word landed. Hard. Ethan's hand froze on his glass. Jess went still. No one else noticed. But they did. I watched it register. The shift. The calculation. Later, in the hallway, Ethan pulled me aside. What was that? He whispered. What was what? I asked. You didn't need to bring up documentation, he said. I tilted my head. Why not? I asked. Transparency is good for families, right? He stared at me. Longer than before. For the first time, I saw it. Not confidence. Fear. Because now he knew. I wasn't just emotional. I wasn't just confused. I was prepared. That night, Jess sent me a message. Polite. Fake sweet. We should talk. Woman to woman. I stared at it. That was new. Direct. Desperate. They were losing control of the story. And when manipulators lose control, they try to negotiate. Or they try to intimidate. Sometimes both. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because now the game had changed. They knew I wasn't clueless. They knew I wasn't isolated. They knew I wasn't playing the role they assigned me. And that scared them more than anything. Jess caught me alone in the kitchen the next morning. No baby. No audience. No soft voice. Just her. We need to be honest with each other, she said, folding her arms. I kept my tone neutral. Honesty would be a nice change. Her lips tightened. You're making things harder than they need to be, she said. This could all be handled quietly. Quietly. Another word for erased. I'm not interested in being handled, I replied. She stepped closer. Lowered her voice. Ethan and I have a future to think about. The baby needs stability. You can't expect him to choose you over his own child. There it was. Not family. Not support. A choice. And in her mind, I had already lost. I'm not asking him to choose, I said. I'm asking for the truth. She laughed softly. Not kind. Truth, she said. The truth is, you were always temporary. You just made things look normal. Temporary. The word hit harder than anything else she had said. You were useful, she continued. You gave him credibility. A wife. A clean life. But this, she gestured vaguely, this is real. Real. Again. I felt cold. Not emotional. Focused. You're admitting a lot right now, I said quietly. She shrugged. It doesn't matter anymore. You don't have the power you think you do. That's when I saw it. Not confidence. Desperation. She was trying to intimidate me because negotiation had failed. Be careful, she added. If you push too hard, you'll lose more than a marriage. A threat. Soft. Wrapped in concern. But a threat all the same. I nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest, I said. She looked confused. That wasn't the reaction she expected. She wanted tears. Fear. Panic. Instead, I gave her calm. And calm is terrifying to people who rely on chaos. That afternoon, I sent everything to my lawyer. Jess's words. What she implied. What she admitted. My lawyer's response was short. Good. That helps establish intent. Intent. They weren't just reacting anymore. They were revealing motive. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Not because things were better. But because things were clear. They weren't confused. They weren't conflicted. They were calculated. And now, so was I. My lawyer emailed me just after noon. Subject line, you need to see this immediately. My heart pounded as I opened it. Attached was a scanned document. Filed 2 weeks earlier. Without my knowledge. Without my signature. A financial authorization. Not fully executed. But attempted. Ethan had tried to move assets using a forged digital approval. My name. My account. My consent. All fabricated. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was illegal. This is serious, my lawyer said when I called her. This crosses into fraud. Fraud. A heavy word. A dangerous one. He can claim misunderstanding, she continued, but with everything else you've documented, it creates a pattern. Pattern. That word again. The same word that kept saving me. This wasn't one bad decision. It was a system. A strategy. A repeated behavior. I forwarded the file to a secure folder. Backed it up. Twice. Then I sat on my bed and stared at the wall. For the first time, I realized something. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was holding evidence that could dismantle them. Not emotionally. Legally. The kind of evidence that changes power overnight. That night at dinner, Ethan was unusually quiet. Jess avoided my eyes. They knew something was wrong. They just didn't know what. Not yet. I didn't confront him. I didn't need to. Silence was stronger. Letting him sit with uncertainty. Letting him feel the shift. Later, I got a message from Rachel. Be careful. When they realize you have something real, they'll try to scare you into backing down. She was right. Because fear was their last tool. I started sleeping with my phone recording. Not because I expected something dramatic. But because people who feel cornered. Talk. Slip. Confess. I was done chasing the truth. Now I was letting it come to me. I heard it by accident. Or maybe not. Maybe part of me had been waiting for it. Ethan was on the phone in the garage. Door half closed. Voice low. But not low enough. "I need time," he said. "She's onto something. I don't know what yet, but she's not stupid." My heart stayed calm. Cold. Focused. "I can't move anything else right now," he continued. "If I do, it'll look bad." Look bad. That told me everything. He wasn't worried about me. He was worried about exposure. I stepped back quietly and returned to the house. That night, I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I emailed my lawyer. 3 words. "He knows." Her reply came fast. "Then we move." 2 days later, I served him. Not dramatically. Not with yelling. With papers. Legal. Official. Unavoidable. He stared at them like they were written in another language. "What is this?" he asked. "You know what it is," I said. Jess came into the room. Read over his shoulder. Her face went pale. "This isn't what we planned," she said under her breath. Planned. The word said everything. For the first time, they weren't in control of the timeline. I was. My lawyer filed motions to freeze disputed assets. To prevent transfers. To document attempted fraud. To establish a pattern of coercive behavior. Suddenly, they weren't the hunters. They were the ones being watched. People stopped calling me stressed. They started calling me strong. Funny how fast narratives change when paperwork gets involved. Ethan tried to talk. To explain. To minimize. I didn't listen. Because explanations are just stories. Evidence is truth. Jess stopped making threats. She started avoiding me. Power does that. It flips the room. Months later, I stood in my own apartment. Not big. Not fancy. But mine. Quiet. Clean. Safe. The house they tried to take from me was gone. But so was the life that trapped me. And in its place was something better. Clarity. Freedom. My name. My story. On my terms. They thought they could rewrite me. They thought they could erase me. Instead, they taught me exactly how strong I really was. Final rehook for playlist / next story tease. If you think this was shocking, the next story starts with a woman who found out her husband's double life at his own funeral.